Hey there, my name is Joe. If you're new to my channel, because I've never done a video about the Akai Force before, then welcome. Today I'm going to show you how to turn your Akai Force into a vocoder. So you probably know what vocoding is, but I'm going to give you a couple examples here and just explain it, and that way you can kind of hear what kind of results you might be able to expect. So vocoding is essentially just kind of taking the spectral qualities of one waveform or sample and kind of encoding or imprinting them onto a second carrier wave. So the first wave is called the modulator, and the second one is called the carrier. So a modulator, actually let's start with a carrier. A carrier could sound something like this. And a modulator could sound something like this.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
And when you vocode that modulator signal onto the carrier signal, you end up with a result that sounds like this. So kind of cool, huh? Just to give you a couple more examples, here is a carrier signal that I recorded off of my hydrosynth. And here is a little bit of a modulator signal, which is just me speaking into a microphone.
Is this the real live?
And when you vocode those signals together, you get a result that sounds like this. And a modulator signal doesn't necessarily have to be a human voice. Some percussive things and drums can also make really good modulators. So here's another carrier that I made with hype synth. And here's a modulator signal, which is just a drum kit that came with the Force. And when you vocode those together, and with those percussive signals, I kind of like to play them together. So all these were made on the Akai Force, and really all you need to do some vocoding, you need obviously an Akai Force. You're going to need this project template that I am going to share with you. I'll put it in the video description. It's free, and then optionally a microphone is pretty fun with a vocoder. So, but you don't necessarily need that. You can also just use samples that you have in your library. All right, let's talk about how to use it. Okay, so let's talk about some properties of good carrier signals. I've got tube synth loaded up here and got a few things I want to show you. And you obviously don't have to hook up a spectrum analyzer like this, but I think it's kind of useful to see it. But mostly you'll probably just use your ears. So here I've got the sub oscillator on a triangle waveform, and I've got the filter, low pass filter, cranked up a little bit. And here's what that sounds like. And you can probably see on the spectrum analyzer there is not a whole lot of frequencies present in that. You can only see about, I guess, 5 peaks right there. And what a vocoder does is it excites the frequencies that are already present in that signal. So you can see in a signal like this, there's not that many frequencies to excite. So if I come back to my mixer over here and I turn the sub down and I turn the filter up and I turn oscillator 1, I think it is, up. Let's check. I think oscillator 1 is a saw wave. So an unfiltered saw wave, if we take a look at that. And you can see that's got a whole lot more harmonics in it, a lot more frequencies that the vocoder could excite. And then just as one last example, we'll turn down oscillator 1, bring up oscillator 2, which is set to white noise. And let's take a look at that. So you can see that's got all kinds of frequency content all across the board. So there's plenty of harmonics in there for a vocoder to excite. So white noise is actually probably the best thing you could use, but really you'll probably be using something kind of in between those two extremes that we saw. All right, so to get started, you're just going to want to load up this template file called vocoder template. I think that's what it'll be called. .xpj, which is just a Force project file. I've already got it loaded. I'm on version 3.0.6 of the firmware, and I've noticed something that I think is a little bit of a bug here that you're going to need to check for. So after you've loaded the template, if you just clicked Edit and Knobs, and then come over here to Envelope Follower, you want to make sure there's an assignment over here for the target. Actually, all 16 envelope followers are in use here, and they should all have targets. I've noticed sometimes when I load this up, those are missing. And if you notice that happen, you can just try to load the project again, or maybe load up a different project file and then load this one. And I don't know, after a couple times of that, it seems to work, and then they seem to be there. So just be aware of that. If those targets aren't there, this won't work. But it's pretty easy to fix. So just try to reload. Okay. So what you're going to have here actually are two drum tracks, and that's really what this thing is built around. I don't really recommend building your song or your beat in this file because there are a lot of different effects in use to make this vocoder work. So when the vocoder's running, the CPU usage is, I don't know, somewhere around 40-45%, so you're kind of starting in the hole if you build your project file here. So probably what you want to do is, just load this template up when you want to vocode, some samples, and then, save that sample and go back to your project. Okay, so I've got my vocoder template loaded. The first thing we're going to do, basically what we're going to do is make a carrier waveform, and then we're going to make a modulator waveform, and then we're going to vocode them together. So this will just be a simple example of how to use it. I've created a plugin track on track 3, which is my first unused track. And I've just added hype synth to it with the default preset. And all I've done is adjust the attack envelope a little bit, the amp envelope, to make it a little bit more sustained. And to make that sound even a little bit richer, let's just go ahead and copy track 3 to track 4. And over here on track 4, let's go ahead and transpose that up 1 octave. And then let's come back over here to track 3, and let's do a MIDI send over to that on track 4. So now when I play track 3, we should get a second octave here. So it's even a bigger sound. I think for recording this, I'm also going to come in here and just turn length off, so it'll record for as long as I play. And I'm just going to turn timing correct off for this one. And set a tempo here. Tap tempo that in. And now I'm just going to record a carrier track. So really, I guess the only thing with vocoding, it's only going to play that carrier sound when there's a modulator. So it's probably best to just kind of record, I guess, legato, not really leave any spaces in that, spaces in your sound, because the modulator is really going to kind of do that part for you. So we're just going to record kind of a continuous thing. All right, here we go. We'll record to this clip here. All right, just play that back there, make sure that all sounds good. Cool. There's a couple ways that we need to get this into a sample. So we could maybe record it to the arranger. I think it's maybe even easier to just kind of go through here and put it in to use the sampler. So we'll go over here to the sampler. We'll set this to resample left and right. We'll make this a stereo. I've already got my threshold set, at a pretty good spot here. I don't know how long this will be, so let's let's just crank this time up to, I don't know, 45 seconds or something. I don't think it's really going to be that long. And we'll record arm this thing, and I'm just going to hit play and launch this clip and record it in. Stop, and we can name this here. We'll call this carrier. And we'll just say keep. All right, so now it'll be time to record the modulator. All right, so now it's time to record the modulator, which is just going to be my voice. So what I'm going to do here is create a new audio track, and that'll be on track 5. Let's just go over to the mixer here, and I've got my mic coming in on input 1, and I'm just going to set the monitoring to auto. And I actually plugged in some headphones here. I have my speakers turned off so we don't get any feedback. Just going to come over here and do a little test talking into the mic, make sure I've got a good strong signal. Cool. And let's see here. So I think I want to make sure that my length is turned off, and make sure my timing correct's turned off. I guess that doesn't really matter for audio track, but I do want to record as long as I want to. And I'm going to record arm this track. So now I'm hearing myself in my headphones. And when I record this track, I'm going to be hearing the output of that synth along with there to kind of guide what I'm saying. You won't hear it because it'll be only in my headphones, but that's why I recorded the carrier first. What else can I say here? So I'm just going to be talking. I'm not really going to be singing. It's actually probably better if you don't sing. What you want to do is really try to articulate very clearly. I think that's going to give you kind of the cleanest, best vocode. All right, so this is all live, so let me think here what I'm going to say. Yep, all right, let's give this a shot. So recording to track 5, you're just going to hear me talking. The robot sings, he lights the flame, he serenades so sweetly. Cool. All right, let me stop the camera for a sec. We'll hear that back. All right, well, I've got my speakers turned back on, so we're coming up on the home stretch here. First thing you might want to do is just kind of mute, these tracks we made. We don't really need to take that vocal sample and record it into the sampler because it already is a sample. Here it is. It was in my case audio 001 REC2. It looks like I kind of clipped it a little bit. Probably should have been watching the mixer a little bit more closely, but I think this will be, okay. So just for demo purposes. So we'll go ahead and use that. Like I say, home stretch. What we want to do now is set up the vocoder. So I'm going to go over here to track 1, which you can see is labeled modulator. And what you want to do is go shift clip and go into the clip editor. And what you need to do is click this little second button from the left up here. And what we're going to be doing is assigning this sample to all 16 of these drum pads. So if you're not familiar with this little screen, if you have it on this one, you're just affecting the current pad that you have selected. If you go to multiple, you can actually select and unselect pads that you want to affect. So make sure you've got all 16 pads enabled, turned red, and you're on multiple. And then we'll come over here to the sample screen, and we're just going to select that modulator waveform, which was audio 001 recording 2, the one that looks like it's kind of clipped. Then we're going to come over here to track 2, which you can see is labeled carrier. And again, just going to make sure that we're selecting multiple and all 16 pads are selected. And we're going to come over here and set this sample to, we had called that carrier. Actually, that looks a little low. I think I'm going to pop back over here into my sample editor and get a carrier, and let's just process that and normalize it. Do it. That's a little better. And I think we're all good to go here. Oh, one other thing, you may just want to like come back over here to these tracks and go into clip mode. You may want to turn loop off, depending, and just kind of make sure that your end is set out far enough. Just go to track 2 and do the same thing. Turn loop off maybe, and just make sure the end is set out there long enough. And like I say, make sure these other tracks that we worked with are kind of muted, and I mean we should be good to go here. So I'm just going to go ahead and hit launch, and let's see what we get. And there we go. So we got a good vocoding. It sounds pretty good to me. Really then just kind of the last step, if you want to save this to go work in your project, you can go back into the sampler. And we're already pretty much set up here for a resample. So I'll just record arm that, launch the clip again. Stop, and we can name this whatever we want. We'll call it Robot Sings. Do it, and we're just going to say save. And I can just put it out here, somewhere on my SD card. We'll save it here in, we'll just save it here in the root, Robot Sings. There we go. So now I'm all ready to use that in a song or a beat. Cool. Well, hope you've enjoyed. Hope you get some use out of this. I think this is a really kind of fun way to, just create, your own sample content that, is really interesting. And anyway, hope you've enjoyed. Catch you guys later.